Welcome to Heidi Relationships. Today, we'll read some more stories from Reddit. But before we start, I would really appreciate if you could subscribe to the channel, like the video if you enjoyed it, and maybe leave a comment down below. That would help the channel a lot. Thank you very much in advance. The first one is titled, "My partner used our savings for a secret hobby. I froze the account." I recently discovered my partner of 6 years, Chase, has been draining our joint savings account for his secret hobby, and I'm still trying to process everything that happened. Let me start from the beginning. I'm Miriam, 34F, and I've been with Chase, 36M, for 6 years, living together for 4. We both work in tech. I'm a project manager, and he's a software developer. We've always been pretty aligned when it comes to money, or at least I thought we were. When we moved in together, we decided to keep separate personal accounts, but also opened a joint savings account for our future, house down payment, emergency fund, that kind of thing. We agreed to each deposit 30% of our monthly income into it. Everything was going great, and we'd managed to save just over $85,000. Before anything else, though, I should probably mention that Chase has always been the type to dive headfirst into new interests. During our 6 years together, I'd watched him cycle through various obsessions. Each one was going to be the thing that would change his life. There was the time he got really into home brewing beer. He spent weeks researching equipment and techniques, filled our apartment with brewing supplies, and talked endlessly about opening his own microbrewery someday. That lasted about 4 months before the equipment got relegated to the garage, where it's still gathering dust. Then came the guitar phase. I've always wanted to learn, he told me, buying a pretty expensive electric guitar and amp. He practiced religiously for about 2 months, even joined a band with some guys from work. They had exactly one practice session before he decided maybe music wasn't his calling after all. The most memorable was his sudden passion for rock climbing. He didn't just buy some basic gear. No, he went all out. Top-of-the-line equipment, specialty shoes, a yearly membership to the climbing gym. He even started planning a trip to Colorado for some real climbing experience. 3 months later, he'd moved on to something else, and the expensive gear joined the brewing equipment in the garage. But here's the thing. All these previous hobbies, while sometimes expensive, were always funded from his personal account. He might have been impulsive with his own money, but he'd never touched our joint savings before. That's why this photography situation blindsided me so completely. "At least I'm consistent with work," he'd joke whenever I teased him about his rotating obsessions. And he was right about that. Chase was excellent at his job, always reliable and focused when it came to his career. It was just his hobbies that tended to flame out as quickly as they ignited. I actually found his enthusiasm endearing most of the time. He approached everything with such genuine passion and excitement. When he got interested in something, he didn't just dip his toes in, he dove into the deep end, learning everything he could about it. He'd talk about his latest hobby with such animation, his eyes lighting up as he explained the intricate details of whatever had captured his attention that month. "That's what I love about you," I told him once. "You're never afraid to try new things. Life's too short not to explore everything that interests you," he'd replied. I remember having dinner with my sister around the time of the rock climbing phase, and she asked if his hobby hopping bothered me. "Honestly, not really," I'd said. "It's his money, and it makes him happy. Besides, some people watch TV all evening. At least he's out there trying new things." She looked skeptical. "But doesn't all that wasted money bother you? All that equipment just sitting in your garage?" I'd shrugged it off. "We keep our personal money separate. As long as he's meeting his obligations for our joint expenses and savings, what he does with his fun money is his business." If only I'd known then how those words would come back to haunt me. The first hint that something was wrong came about 3 months ago. I was updating our budget spreadsheet. Yes, I'm that person. And noticed some unusual withdrawals from our joint account. Nothing huge, $500 here, $800 there, but they'd been happening regularly for months. "Hey, Chase," I called from our home office. "Did you make some withdrawals from the joint account? I'm seeing some transactions I don't recognize." He barely looked up from his phone. "Oh yeah, just some emergency expenses, had to help my brother out with some stuff." That seemed reasonable enough. His brother Dave had been having some financial troubles, and we'd helped him out before. I made a mental note to discuss setting a limit on family assistance, but didn't press further. But then I noticed more withdrawals, larger ones, and they were always followed by Chase being weirdly protective of his phone and taking mysterious trips on weekends that he'd be vague about. "Going to help Dave with some house repairs," he'd say, or meeting the guys for a project. I started getting suspicious, but not in the way you might think. I was worried he might have developed a gambling problem or gotten involved in something illegal. The secretive behavior, the money disappearing, it all seemed to point to something serious. Last week, everything came to a head. I was doing our taxes and needed some documents from Chase's desk. While searching for the paperwork, I found several receipts stuffed in a drawer. They were from various specialty stores and online retailers, all for photography equipment, high-end cameras, lenses, lighting setups, tens of thousands of dollars worth. I sat there staring at the receipts, trying to make sense of it. Chase had never shown any interest in photography. He'd never even mentioned wanting to try it as a hobby. That evening, I decided to do some digging. I know it wasn't the most trusting thing to do, but I felt justified given the circumstances. I logged into our joint account and downloaded all the transactions from the past year. What I found made me feel sick. Over the past 8 months, Chase had withdrawn nearly $42,000 from our joint savings. That was half of what we'd spent years saving for our future. I was sitting at the kitchen table with all the evidence spread out in front of me when Chase came home. "Hey, babe, what's all this?" he asked, then froze when he saw the receipts. "I don't know, Chase. You tell me. Why don't you explain why half our savings has been spent on camera equipment I've never seen?" He sat down heavily. "I can explain." "Please do, because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you've been secretly spending our joint savings on some hobby you never even told me about." He ran his hands through his hair, something he does when he's stressed. "I got into photography about a year ago. Just started small, you know. But then I really got into it, started learning more, needed better equipment. And you didn't think to mention this to me? Or maybe use your own money instead of our joint savings?" "I was going to tell you once I got good enough. I wanted to surprise you, show you I could make something of it." I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Surprise me? By spending $42,000 of our money without telling me?" "I'm going to pay it back," he said quickly. "I've already started getting some paying gigs. Wedding photography, events." "That's not the point." I was trying hard not to yell. "We agreed that money was for our future, for a house. We made decisions about that account together, or at least we were supposed to." "I know, I messed up, but I really think I can make this work. The equipment is an investment." "An investment we didn't discuss together. An investment you made with money that wasn't just yours to spend." I stood up and started pacing. "And what about all the lies? The stories about helping your brother? The mysterious weekend trips?" He looked down at his hands. "Those were photography courses and shooting events. I didn't want to tell you until I was really good at it." "So you lied for months about spending our money." That night, I barely slept. The next morning, I went to the bank as soon as it opened and froze our joint account. I knew it was a drastic move, but I couldn't risk him withdrawing any more money. When I told him what I'd done, he exploded. "You had no right to do that. That's my money, too." "Exactly, it's our money. Money we agreed to save together for specific purposes, money you've been secretly spending without discussing it with me. I was going to pay it back. When? How? And why should I believe you when you've been lying to me for months?" He stormed out, saying he needed space to think. I spent the next few days in a daze, trying to process everything. It wasn't just about the money, though that was bad enough. It was about the breach of trust, the lies, the complete disregard for our shared goals and agreements. My sister came over to help me sort through everything. "You did the right thing freezing the account," she said, pouring us both a glass of wine. "He violated your trust. He needs to understand how serious this is." "I know, but $42,000, that's years of savings just gone, on cameras and lenses and God knows what else." "Have you seen any of this equipment?" I shook my head. "No, he says it's all at a studio he's renting." Her eyes widened. "A studio? So he's spending even more money? I hadn't even thought about that. The rental costs, the additional expenses, how much deeper did this go?" Chase came back 3 days later, saying he wanted to talk. He'd set up a website with his photography portfolio. Apparently, he really had been taking classes and doing events. Some of the photos were actually quite good, but that wasn't the point. "I know I handled this all wrong," he said, sitting across from me at our kitchen table. "I should have told you from the beginning. I got carried away. Photography became this passion, and I convinced myself that if I could make it successful, it would all be worth it." "But why didn't you use your own money? Why lie about it?" He looked uncomfortable. I did use my own money at first, but then I maxed out my credit cards, and the joint account was just sitting there." I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. You maxed out your credit cards too? How much debt are you in? He wouldn't meet my eyes. About $15,000 on the cards. I stood up so quickly my chair fell over. So it's not just the $42,000 from our savings. You're also $15,000 in credit card debt? All for this hobby you never even told me about? It's not just a hobby. I'm building a business. Look at my portfolio. I don't care if you're the next Annie Leibovitz. You lied to me for months. You spent our savings without discussing it. You hid debt from me. How can I ever trust you with money again? That conversation led to more arguments, more tears, and eventually I asked Chase to stay with his brother for a while. I needed space to think about whether this relationship could be saved. The next few weeks were a blur of emotions and difficult conversations. I consulted a financial advisor to understand our options. She helped me see that this wasn't just about the money. It was about trust, communication, and shared values. Financial infidelity is just as serious as other forms of betrayal, she told me. He violated your trust and put your shared future at risk. Chase started therapy, which was a positive step. His therapist helped him understand that his behavior wasn't just about photography, it was about impulse control, honesty, and respect for partnerships. After a month apart, we had another serious talk. I've been doing a lot of thinking, Chase said. I understand now how much I betrayed your trust, not just with the money, but with all the lies. I got so caught up in this dream that I lost sight of our shared goals and values. And the photography? He sighed. I love it. I really do. But I understand now that I went about it all wrong. I should have built it up slowly, with my own money, while being honest with you. We spent hours talking about what it would take to rebuild trust. I was clear about my conditions. 1. We would maintain completely separate finances going forward. 2. He would need to create a repayment plan for the joint account. 3. He would have to be completely transparent about his spending and debt. 4. We would need couples counseling to work through the trust issues. I know it's a lot, I said, but I need to know this will never happen again. Chase agreed to everything. He set up a payment plan to return $500 monthly to our joint account, which would take years, but it was something. He shared all his financial information with me and worked with a credit counselor to manage his credit card debt. We've been in couples counseling for 2 months now, and while things are slowly improving, I'm still processing everything. Our counselor helped us establish better communication patterns and understand why this happened. Financial boundaries are just as important as other relationship boundaries, she explained in one session. Breaking them can be just as damaging to trust. Chase has started building his photography business the right way, slowly, with his own money, while maintaining his day job. He's actually getting regular bookings for weddings and events now, but I'm no longer involved in the financial side of it. That's his business with his money. Last week, he showed me his latest photography project, a series about trust and redemption. The irony wasn't lost on either of us. I know I have a long way to go to rebuild your trust, he said, but I'm committed to doing whatever it takes. We're not fully back to normal, and maybe we never will be. The joint account is still frozen, and I'm not sure when or if I'll feel comfortable combining finances again. But we're working on it, one day at a time. Looking back, I can see how something like this happens. Passion projects can become obsessions, and when there's money readily available, the temptation to use it can be overwhelming. But that doesn't make it right. For anyone facing a similar situation, here's what I've learned. 1. Trust your instincts. If something feels off about your joint finances, investigate. 2. Don't be afraid to take drastic action to protect your financial future. 3. Financial betrayal is just as serious as other forms of betrayal. 4. Recovery is possible, but it takes complete honesty and a lot of work from both partners. Chase and I are still together working on rebuilding what was broken. He's paying back the money slowly, and more importantly, he's working on rebuilding trust. We have separate accounts now, and while it's not ideal, it's what we need for now. The photography equipment sits in his rented studio, a reminder of how quickly things can spiral out of control when secrets and lies enter a relationship. But it's also becoming a symbol of redemption as he builds his business legitimately using his own resources. Last month, he had his first gallery showing. I attended, and I have to admit his work is impressive, but what's more impressive is the work he's doing to repair our relationship and prove he can be trusted again. I could have had all of this without the lies, he told me at the gallery. I just couldn't see it at the time. He's right. The tragedy isn't that he found a passion, it's that he pursued it in a way that damaged our relationship and broke our trust, but we're healing, slowly but surely. For now, we're taking it day by day. Our savings account is slowly being replenished, our communication is better than ever, and we're both learning valuable lessons about trust, honesty, and the importance of facing challenges together rather than hiding them. Sometimes I look at those initial bank statements and receipts that started this whole thing, and I'm amazed at how differently things could have gone if he'd just been honest from the beginning. But you can't change the past. You can only learn from it and work to build a better future. And that's exactly what we're doing. One honest conversation at a time. Update. 6 months later, things have continued to improve. Chase has stuck to his repayment plan and has been completely transparent about his finances. His photography business is actually doing well now. He's booking regular events and has even had a few more gallery showings. Most importantly, he's doing it all with his own money and complete honesty. We're still maintaining separate finances, and honestly, I think we might keep it that way permanently. Sometimes the best way to maintain trust is to maintain clear boundaries. The couples counseling has helped us develop better communication skills and understand each other's perspectives better. Chase now understands why his actions were so damaging, and I've learned to be more direct about my concerns rather than letting them build up. We're not perfect, but we're better, and sometimes that's enough. The frozen joint account serves as a reminder of what we almost lost, but also of what we're working to rebuild. It's a symbol of both our biggest challenge and our commitment to overcoming it together. For anyone else dealing with financial infidelity, remember, it's okay to take drastic steps to protect yourself, but it's also okay to work on rebuilding if both partners are truly committed to change. Just make sure the changes are real and lasting, not just promises in the heat of the moment. Trust, once broken, takes time to rebuild. But with honest effort and real commitment to change, it's possible to create something new and possibly even stronger than before. Just make sure to keep those bank statements separate. Here are my thoughts about the story. First off, let's talk about Chase and his hobby-hopping personality. When I was reading about all his previous obsessions, the homebrewing, the guitar, the rock climbing, I was like, okay, kind of adorable, actually. Like, we all know that person who gets super excited about new things and goes all in, but there's a massive difference between blowing your own money on abandoned hobbies and secretly draining your joint savings account. The part that really got me was how he tried to justify it with that whole, I wanted to surprise you when I got good enough excuse. Sir, the only surprise here is the $42,000 hole in your savings account. And then finding out he'd maxed out his credit cards too? That's not just crossing a line, that's taking a flying leap over it while setting it on fire. And can we talk about how he kept lying about helping his brother? Using family as a cover story is extra grimy because it plays on your partner's compassion. Like, who's going to question someone helping their struggling brother? That's some calculated manipulation right there. What really had me slow clapping at my screen was when Miriam froze that account. The spine on this woman. You know how many people would have just accepted the excuses and let it slide to avoid conflict? But she said, nope, not today, Satan, and marched straight to that bank. The therapy revelation about him maxing out his credit cards first before dipping into the joint savings, that hit different. Because it shows he knew what he was doing was wrong. He burned through his own money first, then made the conscious decision to start stealing from their future. That's not an impulse thing anymore. That's a series of calculated decisions. But you know what part really got me? When he showed up with that photography website like it was going to fix everything. Sir, having a nice portfolio doesn't unsteal $42,000. It's giving very much, but look how pretty the thing I bought with your stolen money is. The update was satisfying, though. I love that they're keeping separate finances permanently, because sometimes the best way to save a relationship is to put up some firm boundaries. And the fact that he's actually building his photography business legitimately now, that's growth. And that growth is beautiful. This story is a perfect example of how financial betrayal can be just as damaging as cheating. Because this isn't just about money, it's about trust, respect, and shared dreams. They weren't just saving random dollars in that account, they were saving for their future together. And Chase basically said, nah, I'd rather buy some cameras. The fact that they're working it out is great, but you better believe I'd be checking those separate account statements like it's my job for a long time after this. Because fool me once, shame on you, but fool me twice, not with my savings account, no. But anyways, guys, with this, we've reached the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe and like the video/comment if you enjoyed it. I'll see you again tomorrow.